Hello everyone. This lesson will take you to learn the 3D compound fabric making, mainly including the irregular circulation fabric treatment, the 3D map making. Rendering and lighting, let's start. Let's go to the Style3D fabric. Import the composite fabric that we scanned by the Style3D scanner. The fabric from scanner is automatically generate maps. Normal map, gloss map, metalness map, transparency map and displacement map. This fabric is not transparent, so we can remove the transparency map. Look at the excess around this fabric. We can cut it and get rid of the parts that we don't need. Go ahead and click OK. We can find in the 3D window that it is not a quadrilateral continuity. We can do a secondary cropping on it. Try to make it a nice quadrilateral continuity fabric map. Further tailoring here. Draw a rectangle. Then adjust it. Find a cropping position that allows it to remain as square as possible. That's much better. You can see here that the fabric has a distinct uneven light. We can open smooth. Smooth parameters don't need to be set too high. If the number go big, you will lose some details. Let's move to smaller. It can just balance the light and shade of the whole picture. Almost on this number. Then we can use the clone stamp. Give it an optimization. Hold down the Alt button and left click to determine the location of the sampling point. Hold down the Alt key, right click and long drag. You can adjust the brush size of the clone stamp. Hold down Alt, right click and long drag up and down. The hardness of the brush can be changed. We take a good sample here and adjust the size and hardness. Then optimize the map edge according. Observe the texture trend. Match the edges of the pattern. It takes a little patience. Here we accelerate progress. View with 3D window. Confirm whether the map we modified is quadrilateral continuity. Look at where are the edges. May still need some adjustments here. It's about right there. Constantly modify with Observe Preview. Alright, so far the whole thing is one. More better quadrilateral continuity, doesn't have any distinct boundaries. It can be viewed on different models, see if there are any problems. The effect is good. We can do an offline rendering of it, check out the rendering of the fabric. Then sync render. Now we can preliminarily see the rendering effect. This fabric looks quite different from the real one. The details are messy and the layers are indistinguishable. You can't see where's supposed to be a metallic place. The fabric was scanned by Style3D scanner, although it can pick up more detail than a normal scanner, but this fabric is complex. Combination of two different materials. One material is a flat and clearly, the other one is smooth and soft. It is unrealistic to perfectly present the partial metal and prominent effect only by scanning, and the colors of the two materials are very similar. It is more difficult for the scanner to accurately distinguish between the two material areas. Renderings can clearly see that the stereopsis is not enough. The details are messy. This requires some maps. We export all maps here. Let's do an analysis first. This is the texture map. It can show fabric details and colors, like these bright parts here. It's supposed to be represented by gloss map and metalness map. This is not the texture map supposed to show. We need to adjust the highlights. Let's open Photoshop. Folder in order of texture map, displacement map, metalness map, normal map, gloss map. We can see texture map is clear, but it highlights a little bit too much. The displacement map looks evenly. Can't let software figure out we're raised or we're flat. This normal map generated by the scanner is ideal. We don't have to do much with it. This is the gloss map. We can see that the dividing line between the two fabrics is very clear, gives us a lot of optimization space. Let's use texture map to analyze it. The contrast is obvious. The gloss map is dark in areas where the fabric is smooth. And the areas not smooth are bright. The brighter on gloss map, the smoother on fabric. That means it should be light here and dark in here. Then we can do some optimization. We handle it in Photoshop. The highlight part is a little bit redundant. We can give it a curve adjustment. Dim the areas where it's too bright, keep everything else invariant. If the two data points under the curve are the same, this curve point will remain where it was. Keep the details other than the highlights intact, and the highlights can be dimmed. Now you can clearly see the contrast between the highlights and other section. So the highlights need to be dimmed more. After selecting or creating adjustment points on the curve, press the up and down arrows to fine-tune the light and shade of the adjustment points. Here you need to keep the curve flat and you don't want to go up and down. Save. Lock the texture here for reference. The material area of the displacement map is difficult to distinguish, so we can look at the normal map first. This normal map generated by the scanner is ideal. We don't have to do much with it. But we can strengthen it. Use curves to slightly enhance the contrast, make it a little more three-dimensional. You don't have to do a lot of shading, just a little bit of sharpening. Save the normal map. Displacement map, we analyzed its light is too even. It's hard for the software to obviously where is the different. Other maps can be used here. Normal map already clearly shows where it is raised and where it is flat by light and shade. I'm going to turn on this not so good displacement map just for easy to naming. Add a normal map. Go to use auto-generated normal map. There's a built-in texture ball here to get a sense of the stereoscopic effect. But we need analysis if the bulge is bright. Is the depression dark? Refer to the texture map. These are the parts he should light up. As long as the high areas are light and the low areas are dark, then the map is correct. The displacement map is still dark and we can make a brightness adjustment to it. Brightness. There is no detail on the right side of the graph, so you can just pull the curve over and contrast it. The bright part lightens and the dark part darkens. Give it a strong contrast between high and low and then save it. Metallicity map is black. Next, adjust the gloss maps. The gloss maps was analyzed before. Where the color is dark, the software will determine that it's not very smooth. Where the color is brighter, the system decides it is smoother. This map is clearly demarcated, but the shading is reversed, so we might need to reverse it. So the light and shade are in the right place. We can still enhance the brightness. That's much better. After tuning, we can see that there will be a lot of finer highlighting details in the dark area. This requires us to manually dim it. Create a new layer and use the brush tool. The brush tool is pretty like the clone stamp tool. Hold down Alt and right-click, drag left and right to adjust brush size, drag up and down to adjust brush hardness. Let's adjust a brush of the right size and hardness. I'm going to do a little bit of darkening here to make sure that the foreground color is black. The opacity of the brush should also be set. It doesn't have to be too obvious to accidentally create a clear score line. The boundaries created by manual dimming may not perfectly match the boundaries of the material. Will affect the effect. Here, I'm going to fast forward the drawing work. The drag view method in Photoshop is a little different from Style3D. Hold down the space bar to appear a small gripper, left-click, long press to adjust the view. Save the gloss maps. The scanner-generated metallicity map is all black and this is wrong. We'll just import it to him for easy to naming, then add the gloss maps. The software recognizes the gloss maps and the metallicity map in the same way. The effect is stronger in bright places. Dark areas are less effective. The smooth part of our fabric is the metal effect, so just use the gloss maps as the metallicity map. Save it. You can turn off PS and add maps to the studio for a look. Open the texture ball file. If don't have this file, you can find the official market to download. Paste the finished maps into the fabric properties. The displacement map cannot attach now, because the replacement paste-in will slow down the rendering. From the 3D window, it is obvious that the metal texture is too strong. Here to adjust the parameters of the gloss maps and the metalness map. Then turn on offline rendering, turn on synchronization. Find a better angle. I've adjusted the angle of this file, so I can just use the front view here. Lock the rendering view. The render is very low light and we need to adjust the lighting. There is a parallel light. We can adjust the angle of the parallel light. Look for a good angle. This is better. Then we can add an area light at the bottom. The area light is very soft. A longer distance and a larger area can create a diffuse reflection. Modify the length and width. Turning on render settings and adding a white background will help us see the problem. There is not enough light at the top. We add a diffuse area light at the top. Be far away and set the area light to be large. We found that the left side was a little too dark, so we could fill in an area light on the left side as well. The parameter can also be set larger. Looking at the effect rendering, you can see that the right contour is slightly darker than the left. we can do a side backlight on the left rear. It's okay to be a little brighter to outline the fabric. Again, to check the effect, find the metalness is still slightly high. We make a slight reduction in the gloss and metallicity. There is also a feeling that the overall darkening can increase the diffuse light area. Brighten other lights. Be careful not to overexpose. After the light adjustment is completed, put the displacement paste in. Otherwise, the rendering speed is too slow, and it will be difficult to synchronize the rendering. You can turn on partial rendering to see the rendering effect. Reduces the displacement map particle spacing. Now you can already see that the stereo effect of this displacement is a little bit stronger. We lower the height parameter of the displacement. It's still a little too much. Adjust the height. Check the effect, now is better. During this period, the light can be adjusted in any time. Now we find the texture effect feels a little dense. We can adjust the size of the map in the Properties editor. Note that the other texture parameter linkage option is selected. We can use the Edit Texture tool to adjust the fabric texture position. But it's important to note, Edit the Texture does not linkage rendering. So we can view the effect in the 3D window while editing. Make the final render. Options need to be checked before final rendering. See if the render properties is good. When finished, you can render the image. This is the end of the course. Thank you for watching. That's it, guys, and I hope some of the tips will help your modeling work. If you like what we do, please liking, commenting, and sharing this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in next video. Goodbye.